Okay, sit yourself onto your left and come into a good cross leg position. Just have a little wiggle about, just make sure that you feel like you're sitting evenly. And that takes a moment or two at least to establish. So hold onto your knees, lift up into the heart area, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears, and look down at the floor, look at something that doesn't move. Just take some deep inhalations in through the nose and out through the nose. Sometimes the first couple of conscious inhalations makes you think, well, why haven't I been breathing like this all the time? Because you get an instant sensation of energy into the blood. So just observe the breath. Fill the lungs from the bottom to the top. Fill the lungs evenly. And then empty your lungs from the top to the bottom. Release your knees, bring your hand into Namaste. Just establish that you're sitting evenly or otherwise. Take a deep inhalation, and with an exhalation allow your eyes to gently close. Just focus in on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Just observe the feeling of the breath as it enters and exits. And listen to the sound of the breath. Just to tune in your ears to the sound of the breath. So long as there are no heart conditions or conditions that prevent you from holding your breath, or where you shouldn't hold your breath at the top of the in-breath, if those things don't apply, then just very gently hold the breath for a moment or two, just a couple of seconds, not for any longer. Just allowing the energy of the breath to absorb into the lungs. And then a normal out breath, just a second or two of hold. And with an exhalation, draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Holding on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area as you release your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. Bring the tip of the index finger with the tip of the thumb. Rest in the palms to face upwards, stretching the other fingers away from the palms. Just a conscious gesture of wisdom, physical intelligence, and peacefulness that we can carry as an intention into our practice. And then gently raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open, and the focus to softly come back. Hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest, elevating the heart area upwards and drawing your shoulders down. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across and your ribs and your shoulders, just observing how that feels for your body this morning. Maintaining the breath, filling the lungs from the bottom to the top, expanding the lungs outwards. And then come back to the center, hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest, draw your shoulders down away from your ears, take a deep inhalation. And then turn to the left, drawing your abdomen across and your ribs across and your shoulders across. And then come back to the center. Just come off the lift and sit back on your heels. Sit back on your heels. Just allow your legs to just adjust into virasana for a moment. Feeling how the shins connect to the ground, or otherwise maybe they don't. If you're on a hard floor, then your shins won't connect to the floor as easily as they will on a soft floor like this. So you might need to just lengthen the shin away from the toes a little, lengthen the knees away, so that the shins really make good contact. Press the shins into the floor, elevate the heart area up to the ceiling, and then come forwards, hinging at the hips. Spread your fingers, spread your palms. Turn the tailbone in, drawing the tailbone down to the floor. Just listen to the sound of the breath. Just feel how the seat bones can stay down or drawing down towards the heels, but then lengthen from the hips into the armpits, into the elbows, into the wrists, into the palms. Just listen to the breath. Come up onto your knees, turn your toes under, have your little fingers as wide apart as the mat, have your feet as wide apart as the mat, and then come up into dog down. Activate your legs, drawing the kneecap through to the back of the knee, pushing the front of the thigh through to the backs of the thighs, lifting the fronts of the thighs, the muscles up towards the top of the leg, up to the hip socket. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Step your feet forwards, come up into a standing position. Just align your feet with the edge of the mat so that the toes are turning inwards. So the big toes are turning inwards, the heels and the little toes are in line with each other along the edge of the mat. And then tighten your kneecaps, lift the thighs, lift the abdomen up to the diaphragm region and raise your arms up to the ceiling. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. And then hook the thumb into the crease of the elbows, wrap your fingers around your elbows. If you've got a bad back, then just come halfway, just resting your arms on the back of a chair or tabletop. Otherwise, just hinge at the hips and hang down. Again, firmly activating your legs like you're doing Tadasana. Just let the spine hang down to the floor, but that will only be effective if your legs are working determinedly. So draw your attention into the legs, lifting the shins out of the ankle sockets, lifting the kneecaps away from the shins, lifting the thighs away from the kneecaps, all the way up into the hip socket. Just lengthening the side ribs all the way down to the floor if you can. Hitting your shins back so that you bring weight into your heels. And then release your hands down to the floor. And then just come into half uttanasana. If you can't reach the floor, then bring your hands onto your shins like this. Just pushing your hands firmly into the shins. Lengthening the chin and the chest away, hitting the fronts of the thighs into the backs of the thighs. Just breathing deep inhalations and exhalations, just waking the legs up. Because if you wake the legs up, then you wake the spine up. Bring your hands into your hips and then come up into a standing position and then come into Tadasana. Just lift up into the chest. Elevate the heart area up to the ceiling, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Bring your arms out nice and wide in towards the chest, and then step or jump your feet apart nice and wide with your legs. Turn your left toes in, your right leg and foot all the way out. And then bring the chest back to face the front. Activate the kneecaps. Turn the tops of the thighs outwards. And then reach over, find the shin, and look up if you can. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Just feel where you are in 3 dimensions. So observe where the feet are. Hopefully, the front foot, the right foot, is in line with the instep of the back foot. Maybe have a quick look, make sure that that's the case, and adjust it. If not, while you're looking down, just make sure that your head is over your foot. If it's not, then lift the chest a little further, squeeze the front leg buttock bone in, hit the back leg towards the wall behind you, and look up again. Turning the abdomen up to face the ceiling. Reaching up into that top arm rather than collapsing down into that bottom arm. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Observing how it clears out the sinuses. Come back to the centre. Swap the feet around, turn the right toes in and the left leg and foot all the way out. Again, just being mindful of the position of the feet. So this heel should line up with the instep or the toes of the back foot. Activate the kneecaps, especially with that front leg. Turn that front leg from the big toe side to the little toe side. Do the same with the back leg as you reach over, keeping that back leg firmly engaged in the pose. Look up if you can. Reach up. Just feel the body in 3 dimensions. Feeling that the hips are in line with the feet, in line with the spine. And then coming back to the centre, bring the feet parallel, and then step or jump the feet back together, come back into Tadasana. Just lift up into the chest, take deep inhalations in through the nose, fill in the lungs. Filling the lungs from the bottom to the top, allowing the chest to broaden with the in-breath. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Stretch your arms out in front, interlock the fingers right into the webbing of the hands, and then turn the palms all the way out, squeezing the outer elbows in, and then raising your arms over your head, squeezing the outer elbows inwards, pushing the palms to the ceiling, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards so that you can feel that the backs of the thighs broaden outwards. Release your arms, swap the interlock of your fingers, turn the palms all the way out, and then raise your arms over your head. release your arms. And then come back into Tanasana, lifting up into the chest, spreading the fingers, spreading the palms. Just feeling the energy in the palms of the hands. Bring your arms out nice and wide in toward your chest, and then step or jump, go as wide as you can, and just align your heels with the edge of the mat, just so that you know that your feet are in line. So nice and wide, and then turn your toes in a little, even if you have to bend your knees to do it. And then tighten the kneecaps. Have your hands on your hips, wing your elbows towards each other behind you, and elevate the heart area up to the ceiling, really lifting up into the chest, making space in the chest. Take a deep inhalation. Keep the head lifted as you come forwards, hinging at the hips. And then reach down and find the floor. If you need to, rather than go to the floor, then you can use a couple of blocks for your hands. Just be at the height that you need to be. Be on fingertips and work to consciously lift from the shins out of the ankle socket. Lift the shins up to the knees, lift the knees up to the thighs, lift the thighs away from the knees and up into the hip socket, elevating the heart area upwards. Breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations, try and concave in the shoulder blades. So lift the heart area, lift the sternum bone, draw the shoulder blade region inwards. That's it. And then if you can, hinge at the hips and then bring your head down to the floor. Use a block under your head if it doesn't quite reach. Bring the heel of your hands, the heels of your hands in line with the heels of your feet. Lift the shoulders away from the ears. Lift the feet out of the floor, up into the hips. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards. If you can reach around the outsides of the heels. Just really activate the legs. Try not to put any weight on your head, or minimal weight on your head. Just listen to the breath. Lengthening those side ribs from the hips into the armpits. Try not to bring too much weight onto your head. And then bring your hands back to the center. Just stretch forwards again, just extending into the spine. And then bring the heels of the hands down, bend your knees, and then step or jump your feet back together. And then come up into a standing position. And then raise your arms for virasana. So ideally, the hands are parallel to each other, but you can bring them a bit wider apart if you can't straighten your arms. So I run out of ceiling height here, so my arms are always a bit wider, but they're straight, so that's the important part. Straight arms allow you to extend. Bent arms become heavy quickly. And then release your arms, and then come down onto your back and into supta konasana. So lay down onto your back, the soles of the feet together, the knees apart. Just rest your hands on the lower ribs. Breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations. And then stretch your arms up to the ceiling, interlock the fingers, turn the palms all the way out. And then lengthen your arms along the floor. If you've got stiffness in your hips, then you can put blocks on the outsides of your thighs. If there's stiffness in your shoulders, put a folded blanket or some blocks underneath your hands just to support the shoulders. Otherwise, just use the floor. So use this pose to broaden the abdomen from the belly button to the side ribs, to the side abdomen, and from the bottom of the abdomen to the top. See if you can broaden out the abdomen. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Release your arms back to the ceiling, swap the interlock of your fingers, turn the palms all the way out again, and then lengthen your arms along the floor. Allowing the breath to activate without any resistance, expanding as much as the lungs will allow. Listening to the breath. And then release your hands, just rest your hands on your lower ribs. Just focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. And then draw your knees in towards your chest, just pull the knees in towards the chest, and then just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, and then rock yourself up into cross-leg position, just sitting in cross legs for a moment, just holding onto your knees, lifting up into the chest. So breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Just feeling the chest expand with the in-breath. And relax with the out-breath. And then come down onto your front. So you're going to go into bhujangasana, just a way of really opening up the abdominal region, and it's a little back bend as well. So just be on your elbows initially, just lengthen your toes away, so kind of pick up the whole leg and see if you can just lengthen into the toenails. And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders, the tips of your fingers in line with the tops of the shoulders. And then really activate the legs, tighten in the kneecaps really firmly, and then turn the fronts of the thighs inwards like you're doing Tadasana. So you feel that the backs of the thighs broaden outwards and maybe the heels separate. The big toes are together, the heels have started to separate. So really turn the legs. That will protect the spine. Just gently lengthen the sacrum spine down to the tailbone down to the floor. And then keeping your hands where they are, not necessarily straightening your arms, keeping your shoulders away from your ears, keeping the legs activated. Lengthen from the abdomen to the diaphragm, to the collarbone, to the chin, keeping the shoulders down away from the ears, keeping the elbows into the sides of the body. So not necessarily straightening your arms, you need to keep your pelvis down on the floor. So keeping the shoulders away from your ears, and then just gently relax yourself down. Rest your arms on the floor, either side of the body, rest your head on one side. So bhujangasana, it's a good pose for just realigning your spine, just for waking up your energy. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Okay, we'll do that again. So bring the hands underneath, the fingertips underneath your shoulders, and then again work into the legs. Pick up the whole of the leg and just point the toes. I don't normally point the toes often in this style of yoga, but point the toes, press the tops of the feet really firmly into the floor. Turn the fronts of your thighs inwards so that the backs of the thighs broaden outwards. Just lengthen the tailbone away from the sacrum down to the floor. And then come up, keeping the pelvis on the floor, lifting the abdomen to the diaphragm, to the collarbone, keeping the shoulders away from your ears. If there's no problem with your neck, then lift the chin to the ceiling, keep the legs activated, keep the kneecaps tightened. And then gently release. Just rest your head on the other side. Rest your arms at the sides of the body. And then breathe into the pose. So bhujangasana, sometimes it's known as the cobra. So it's a good pose for realigning the spine. If there's a slip disc, then it's a good way to realign the discs. And then just one more time, bring your fingertips underneath your shoulders, activate your legs, turn in the legs, keeping the elbows into the floor, keeping the pelvis down. Just lift up into the chest, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears, lifting the chin to the ceiling. And then gently release, just rest your head on the other side again. Rest down into the floor. Just allowing the body to reset. And then push your hands into the floor, come up onto your knees, and then stretch forwards. Have the big toes together, your knees apart, and then stretch forwards into Adho Mukha Virasana. Spread in the palms. Keeping the arms straight, lengthening the tailbone down to the heels. Just lift your head and then bring your hands onto your fingertips. And then walk your hands over to the right side and stretch out. So it's a really good stretch for the lats. So keep the head lifted, and then keep the seat bones down as much as you can. bring the hands over to the right side and lengthen especially into that left arm. Just really stretching out the lats. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, just keeping the chest level with the floor. And then walk your hands back to the center. Just reset beyond fingertips. And then walk your hands over to the left side. Again, just keeping the seat bones down as much as you can. You probably won't be able to keep them down altogether, but keep trying. Lengthen into the arms, so especially that right side, just lengthening out the side ribs. And then come back to the center. And then bring the palms flat down into the floor again. And then just come back into Adho Mukha Virasana. Okay, and then just bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Just sit back on your heels for a moment. Just observe the energy that you have released through your practice so far this morning. And then just sit yourself in cross legs. And then hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Focusing on drawing the breath in through the nose, filling the lungs from the bottom to the top, emptying the lungs from the top to the bottom. Filling both lungs evenly. Emptying both lungs evenly. Take a deep inhalation. And with the following exhalation, turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across. And your ribs and your shoulders. Push the back hand firmly into the floor so that you can roll onto the front edge of the seat bones. So that you can elevate out of the hips, up into the chest, keeping the shoulders away from your ears. Bend your elbows out to the sides a little to accommodate your breath. And then come back to the center. Hold onto your knees, just take a few deep inhalations and exhalations. Take a conscious inhalation and then turn to the left. Drawing your abdomen across and your ribs and your shoulders. And then come back to the center. And then come down onto your back. If you've got a block handy, we'll go into setubandha. So just come down onto your back and pull your feet in towards your seat bones as much as you can. Bring your head down onto the floor. And then lift the seat bones away from the floor. Gather the shoulder blades together so you come right up onto the tops of the shoulders, and then place the brick into the sacrum tailbone region. Just hold on to the edges of the mat and then turn the crease of the elbows out to face the sides of the room. Lift up into the chest. And then either keep your knees bent like this if there's any kind of discomfort in your back, or you can straighten one leg, just see how that feels for your back, bring it back, straighten out the other leg, bring it back. If that felt okay in your back, then slide your heels along the mat, keeping the heels in contact with the floor, and then lengthen your legs away. Just feel that you can inhale into the abdomen. Allow the abdomen to expand with the inhalation and to relax with the exhalation. So if it's too strong to keep your legs straight, then you just bend your knees, just bringing the legs back like this, and then just stay in setubandha with the knees bent. Otherwise, just keeping the legs straight, having them at least hip width apart, maybe more. Just giving yourself space. Observe the space in the abdomen. And then just bring your feet back to the block. And then just lift the seat bones, even if you have to come up onto the tiptoes to do it. Lift the tailbone up off the block, move the block out of the way, adjust your shoulders, and then guide yourself back down to the floor. Pull your knees in toward your chest, just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, maybe even getting hold of the edges of the feet for the happy baby stretch. Just a little rock from side to side. Just ironing out the kinks in the spine. And then just roll onto your right side and then straighten out the top leg, come back up into a seated position, and then get your folded blanket for your head. Just guide yourself down into a really good straight line right down the center of your mat. Just make sure you're in a really good straight line, and then just let the head rest onto the floor. Have the palms facing the ceiling, away from the chest a little. Let the legs relax. Allow the physical body to become heavy into the ground. Observe where the body makes contact with the floor. Let the arms and the legs detach, unhooking the muscles of the arms and the legs so that you become heavy on the floor. But out of that heaviness comes a distinct feeling of energetic lightness that radiates from the bones, spreading out into the muscles and the organs and the flesh and the skin. allowing the body to release into the floor. Use your in-breath and your out-breath to distribute that feeling of energetic lightness down into the toes. To the toes and into the fingertips. And all the way up into the top of the head. And then when you're ready to disturb yourself, just wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers, bringing yourself back into this pose of Shavasana. Pull your knees in toward your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. And then roll over onto your right side, just stay down for a breath or two. And then straighten out the top leg, come back up into a seated position. Final cross legs with your hands in the masti. A final spinal lift. Draw your breath in through your nose down into the abdomen. Be conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and the back bends and the twists bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Spend a moment to seek to acknowledge the positive energy you have created inside. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel as though you've really lifted your energy, given yourself good, positive energy to put into